The Pledge of Allegiance.
Be my pleasure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner West?
Here.
Van Essen? Present. Collins?
Present.
Barton? Salgin?
Here. Director's item, do we have any changes in our agenda for the evening?
No, we do not. And I do have one item here for you. So at the end here, you can see a new face. We have Steve Stevenson, who's
Yes.
now joined the Planning Commission as our alternate member. He's taken the place of Commissioner Garcia, who moved out of state. The mayor, Daniel DeGraff, and I interviewed a few that the mayor wanted to interview, and Steve Stevenson is gladly accepted the spot to be our alternate. He's here tonight to kind of just watch the meeting, and he'll be an active member at the November meeting. So,
Very good.
welcome.
Excellent. Welcome, Steve.
Welcome.
Do you want to introduce yourself a little further? You don't have to but if you'd like, we'd like to know a little about you.
So I've been in the construction industry for over 22 plus years. I went through an apprenticeship with local 442 plumbers, pipe fitters, cut my teeth from every level of apprenticeship all the way up to superintendent on projects, and then worked my way into the office within our local, and got a vast knowledge of everything from light residential to heavy industrial, and I've done it all.
Very good.
Thank you.
Excellent. You'll be a great addition to the team. Welcome. Very good. Okay, so at this time, we open up for anyone that would like to speak to the commission on matters that are not on our agenda for the evening. Would either of you like to address us? Okay, very good. So we'll move on then. We need to approve our minutes from last month. Did everybody have a chance to look them over? Do we have any comments or a motion on that?
I will move to approve.
Second.
Let's see. Let me open up the vote here, sorry. And they are adopted. Thank you, guys. At this point, we will have a public hearing then. Ken, would you like to introduce the subject matter?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. Just a little background here. This is an appeal hearing of a decision by the planning director here, myself for the city. Pacific Pride Card Lock it's a fueling business located at 816 South Frontage Road, which is kind of on the corner of Frontage Road and Goodwin Drive, across the freeway from us. In addition to Pacific Pride Card Lock, the Big Valley Truck Wash also operates at this location. Pacific Pride Card Lock has been in operation at this location for over 20 years. Over the past 20 years, while they've been in operation, the property has gone through a couple land use changes. In 2007, the city of Ripon went through a public process in which the subject property, along with a bunch in the area, they were rezoned from heavy industrial and light industrial uses in that area to mixed use. This specific property, I think, was heavy industrial at that time. More recently, in 2015, the city of Ripon did adopt the North Point specific plan. I think some of you commissioners were involved with that and on the commission at the time, which even further refines the land uses in that area. Although the city of Ripon zoning map still recognizes the property as mixed use, is what it was rezoned to in 2007. All future and allowable uses in that area now must comply with the further refined land uses of the identified in the adopted specific plan, the North Point specific plan. The North Point specific plan does recognize this property as residing in the commercial/tech/office district. Therefore, any and all allowable uses must comply with the new zoning designation. Essentially, upon adoption of the specific plan, many of the existing uses out there in the area became what is known as legal non-conforming. So we do have the Pacific Pride fueling station, the truck wash there, the mini storage in that area, Goodwin Business Park. They're all considered legal non-conforming uses in that area now. So on or around June of this year, 2021, the city did receive a building application for a proposed canopy to cover the existing fuel pumps in the area there. At that time, the building department directed them to contact the planning department, and after we reviewed the application a little further and reviewed our code, we discovered that the municipal code does cover legal non-conforming uses very specifically. It's in the city's municipal code, chapter 1608, that deals with those type of uses. They do come up from time to time, not very often. We do have uses that come up from time to time that are what are considered legal non-conforming. The intent of the nonconformity provisions within that section is to regulate structures and uses that were legal when brought into existence, much like the card lock fueling station that you have here, but no longer comply with the provisions of our code. The additional intent of this section is to permit nonconforming uses to continue until they are removed or required to be ended, but not to encourage their continuance. Additionally, the code does cover, they specifically address nonconforming uses of land. Essentially, it states that nonconforming uses of land that existed at the time this code became effective, or when the North Point specific plan, more specifically, was adopted, may be continued. However, a nonconforming use of land shall not be expanded or extended, either on the same or adjoining parcels. Staff's opinion is that the construction of a fuel canopy that never existed in the past is an expansion of a nonconforming use. Therefore, staff did deny the building application. So on September 20th, we did receive an appeal letter from Pacific Pride appealing the planning director's decision. A couple items to note that were in the letter: the Pacific Pride card lock, the application or the appeal letter that was submitted, basically only contained the fuel canopy. There were no plans submitted proposing any landscaping or other site improvements as alluded to in the appeal letter. The letter also brings up another non-conforming use in the area that is currently being revamped at this time, which is Jimco Truck Stop. If you've been down the road there, you can see they are revamping the site. The old truck stop started their approval process for the reconstruction of their site prior to the North Point specific plans adoption. Specifically, they went through a minor site application with the city prior to the adoption of the North Point specific plan. So at that time, neither Jimco Truck Stop nor Pacific Pride Card Lock were non-conforming land uses. Therefore, Jimco was approved to revamp their site. They just are getting to it a little bit later. The Planning Commission can make one of two determinations tonight on this appeal request. You can agree with staff's determination on the nonconformity provision and uphold staff's decision of denial of the fuel canopy. Or you can disagree with staff's determination of the nonconformity provisions and allow the appellant to submit appropriate applications for the construction of their fuel canopy. If the commission wishes to go the second route with the applicant, staff would recommend that they go through the city's minor site plan application for the project, where appropriate conditions of approval can be established for the project, such as landscaping, possibility of adding sidewalk and such along frontage road, stuff that the site does not have that does not comply with our standards. So at this time, Mr. Chairman, I will turn it back over to you. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I do believe the appellants are here tonight to answer any questions or address the commission as well.
Thank you, Ken. Being that this is public hearing procedurally, I assume we're only going to have the one that's going to speak. But should I introduce the process as well as, because this is an appeal, right? So
Right.
this is different. So I haven't done this procedurally.
Yeah, it would be the same as the public hearing process.
Okay.
You can go through the process. They obviously can stand up during the public hearing process and address you guys as a commission and
Right.
And go through if anybody else wants to, which doesn't seem like
Yeah,
we have anybody
exactly.
here. Yeah, we can
Okay.
go through that
Thanks,
process
Ken.
and
I
then
just-
close the public hearing.
So the procedure would be that we would hear from the applicant. And if you're going to address us, please take the podium and state your name and address. We'll get to that in just a second. And then anybody else that wants to speak in favor, if you both would like to speak, can speak. Obviously, we could provide opportunity for opposition. Doesn't look like you're going to have that tonight. And then you would be able to rebut that typically. And then typically you would be able to appeal these decisions again at City Hall at 259 North Wilma Avenue. So you could speak to that if that still applies, I don't know,
Yeah, that would still apply.
It
So
still
the planning
applies.
commission's decision can be appealed to the
to
city
the
council.
city council. Okay, very good. So would the applicant like to speak to us then? Please, thank you. Thanks for bearing with me there.
Thanks for this opportunity. My name is Ron Vantapol. I'm the president of Vantapol Enterprises, and we're located at 4895 South Airport Way in Stockton. We provided, I think you have in front of you, just a little background on who we are and the site background. And so I'll go through that briefly and be open for questions. As our interview, company profile, we're going to celebrate 75 years in business come next January. We've been serving this area for a long time. Background on the site is that we have actually operated there for 34 years under a number of different property owners. The current property owner is Jatinder Gill of Gill Express. And Mr. Gill is aware of what we're doing and supports that, us moving forward with an application. Just one thing that we are looking to do with this site is to make it, we now sell renewable diesel. For those of you who don't know what renewable diesel is, it is a product that has no oil in it. It's refined with bioproducts, but it's not a biodiesel fuel. It's completely compatible with your current diesel that CARB allows you to put it on top with no changes or anything. There's no bioproduct in it. It's just refined. What this does, it allows for our community and for trucking industry and our cardlock users to use a fuel that is about 80% reducing the NOx that the carb diesel does. And as you'll see in a picture that I'll show you later, the product that we'll be selling through that, we currently have it through there now. The denial that the gentleman just talked about is non-conforming use, that there will be no expansion of the business. And our rebuttal to that is that we're not increasing the footprint, we're not increasing the property size, we are adding a canopy. The proposed canopy would increase the lighting and security in that area. And so we know when we submitted the original application, we thought it just needed to be a building type thing and didn't address anything on landscaping because we were going to do that anyway, but didn't know that until the planning commission made their decision. So our request is that commission allow us to go through to the second option that was given, and that we be able to go through to the city's minor application process and meet their requirements, because we had planned to do landscaping and do upgrade of the site as well as the canopy, but didn't realize it needed to be in the building application that we submitted. So we're just looking to upgrade the facility, make it look nicer, and so that's where we are today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have questions for Mr. Vanderpool?
Yes, I have one. Both Ken and you alluded to some landscaping improvements as well. So is that part of the plan, if you could go forward, is to do some landscaping?
Yes, it is, and our understanding is that by going to the minor site application, that we would need to work with them to make sure they're fine with what landscaping and other requirements they would have before they would approve it.
Any idea how close you can go to the truck wash to improve how it looks?
No,
No?
but
Okay.
it's something we can look into because I think the property owner that we lease from owns that property as
Yeah,
well.
okay, just curious.
No, I understand.
I go by there every day.
Yes.
Do you?
Yes, I
Oh, yeah, okay.
On my way to Manteca, I take the back road.
I went by and took a look at it, but I don't go by there every day. Okay. Anybody else? What is the term of the lease that you have for the property?
We have leased through 2033.
2033, okay. Very good, thank you.
Okay.
Would anyone else like to speak on behalf of the project? No, we're good.
Just to point out, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at
Yes.
the canopy, what it would look like is in one of the pictures attached to the back.
Yeah, the top canopies actually are location east, and we would mirror that, it's the same canopy manufacturer structure.
This is my brother Tom Vandepol, by the way.
Very good, thank you. All right. Discussion or questions for Ken?
Yeah, I have a few questions. So we approved this North Point, I know because I was on the commission when we did that. And there's not a whole lot of stuff going there. People who are trying to develop the houses are having trouble getting developers willing to build them. So it appears that it's kind of at a standstill. Do we have any idea, I know you can't foresee and you have no magic wand, but can you give kind of a rough idea of how long it's gonna take before we're gonna say to these folks, now you have to conform, and I'm guessing we're gonna tell them they can't have this operation there at all at some point, right? That's basically what you're saying?
I don't have, I have a very fuzzy crystal ball. I don't know, obviously, if and when that property would develop. As far as thinking it's stagnant, kind of stagnated a little bit. Obviously, the plan was adopted in 2015. It's kind of only 6 years old. We look at this as probably a 30-plus year plan for the whole North Point area. If there's one thing the city can be, it's patient. If it doesn't necessarily going to look the way we want it to day one, and we just have to have some patience. I do appreciate the improvements that they're proposing to put on the site. However, the more we allow investment into a site, the longer that non-conforming use could potentially stay. The idea is to get them maybe moved to another site in town that's more appropriately zoned for their use that they want to do. And so that's exactly why the non-conformity provisions are in our code, is to not encourage the continuance of that use in that area. Not that we don't appreciate their business and would love to see them stay in town, it's just not the appropriate spot we want to see those type of businesses in the future. How long that's going to take for that area to redevelop, I wouldn't be able to guess on that.
Okay, so you said if we let them improve, that's going to increase their length of non-conforming time. So does it actually change the length of time they can be non-conforming, or are we just construing that it would because now it's a more attractive location?
Exactly. That's kind of the way the non-conformity provisions look at it, is the more investment somebody's making in a property, the longer that business is going to stay in that area. So that you're lengthening the time of the non-conformity because of the investment they're putting into the business.
Yeah, because I'll be real honest, they have this lease through 33. That's not that far down the road, so who knows what's going to happen then? And it really looks really bad. I'd like to see the improvements, so I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. I'll just put it out there.
Love renewables, energy, and renewable sources, okay? But the plan for this project was put together jointly by the city council, the community consultants that came in from Pleasanton and Stanford, and it took several years to develop. And you guys were probably never notified that that was going on. probably Mr. Gill was, the landowner was, whoever was at that time, and you guys didn't know. And this is why I really am empathetic to that. But it's a strategic plan for a large area, and it was drafted by people that have implemented other large strategic plans. And I know things stall out, and they can take 30 years. So one of the things, although I would love to see a beautiful landscaping, and it's an attractive overhang, okay? But when I come to this code, I have to agree with the interpretation where it says, shall not be expanded or extended either on the same or adjoining property. So the code states that it cannot be expanded on the same property. And my blunt, direct reading of that code would be that an increase in the amount of structures is an expansion of the amount of structures on that building, and it would be in violation of what was written. So it's difficult for me to, although I want to see landscaping in, and I love renewables, it's hard for me to go against all the work and money and time the community has put into the zoning and where we're at with this.
I tend to agree that there was a lot of thought that went into that, a lot of money that was spent to develop that plan, and, you know, we have these rules for a reason. Is there any, Ken, this is a question for you, is there any length of time that a use can stay non-conforming like that? Is there a point at which they would have to conform?
No, there's not. Basically, the idea is when other properties start developing around non-conforming uses, the value of the property becomes a little more marketable for conforming uses to want to come in and either take down what's there and build something that's conforming. So that's the idea behind the non-conforming provisions. They can stay as long as they want. Typically, we see non-conforming, legal non-conforming uses with houses. As we expand our city outward, there's a lot of farmhouses that end up sitting in kind of maybe some areas that aren't necessarily zoned for residential, and they eventually move on at some point in time. And that's the same scenario there. We wouldn't let them expand either.
Do we have, how much of this legal non-conforming property do we have? Do we have a lot of that? Is this, if we were to, say, make an exception here, are we setting a precedent that could come back to haunt us or bite us on other properties as well?
Well, just in that area there, like I said, I think I mentioned most of them that are legal non-conforming there. We've got the mini storage that's in operation that has asked several times if they can expand onto some neighboring property that's for sale there, and have been told no. Goodwin Business Park, as it sits, is a legal non-conforming use. They haven't looked at expanding or anything like that, but they are legal non-conforming, as well as the truck wash and the card lock that's there. Jimco Truck Stop is also legal non-conforming. Like I said they went through the minor site review and kind of got their stuff kicked on prior to the adoption of the North Point specific plan, so we had to honor obviously what they were approved for. That's why you're seeing some of the improvements over there. But they would be a legal non-conforming business, and they are now today. So those are in that general area, those are the ones that I know. There might be some others in town that I'm not necessarily thinking of off the top of my head, but in that area, those are the ones.
So Ken, I guess to Deborah's point, because she brought up a really good point. So if we were to, let's say, disagree with this, are we forced to approve future projects that come up like this? I mean, are we legally gonna be forced to, if we were to make an exception here and then the storage place comes back and says, hey, what's up? You guys didn't approve mine, but you approved this one. I mean, is there gonna be legal consequences moving forward and our hands gonna be tied? Is that what this will
That's
create?
probably a good question for the city attorney at some point.
Okay.
I'm not certain on that one.
Okay. That's kind of what you were wondering too,
Yeah,
right?
just
Well-
what precedent we set.
In relationship to that, this is not a request to expand.
Right,
It's just a request to beautify,
improve.
to improve the space. Whereas the storage, they want to expand, they want to buy more
Yeah.
property and have a larger. So that's, to me, that's totally different.
That is the definition of expand.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
mean, they're still gonna be legal non-conforming, so there's still gonna come a point where they're gonna have to move out. So do we let them stay the way they are until they get to that point, or do we make it look a little nicer till they get to that point? Because they're still gonna be forced out. So-
But this lease, I didn't catch up.
No, that's okay.
This lease could then, this property could then be turned over to another individual doing the same thing, and it would remain legal, non-conforming, because it's, the landholder owns the land. So if the Vanderpools were to sell at some point, they could sell to their business to another organization, and so it could continue on and on. There's no dead end for it.
They could continue to do that with the way it looks today, though, as well, right?
I mean, there still is an end, because it's still gonna go back to the landowner. Right now, it's legal non-conforming, but the person who owns the land, if they get offered a deal they can't refuse, now they're gonna sell the land and they're gonna move on. So, I mean, and we don't know, I mean, you know, having to clean that business up is not gonna be cheap. I mean, you have those tanks there, we had to do that in one of our properties, so. you know.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of major improvements. I mean, maybe repaving the whole thing. I mean, there's a lot. That's a huge investment.
Because I think what you're talking about is sidewalks, landscaping, and repaving, correct? Because sidewalks are not on part of that property.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of them. It's gonna be a huge investment. It's gonna make the place look good.
Which, again, makes it desirable to stay there longer.
Yeah,
One perpetuates the other.
yeah.
This is a little bit on the tricky side.
Yeah, we don't have a crystal ball. I mean, that business could stay the way it is and look the way it is for the next 30 years, right? If the landowner continues to lease it to the Vanderpools and they like the money that they're intaking and they're happy with what they're getting, they can stay there as is, and we don't get the property beautified.
So Ken, if we said,
And they've been there a very
Go
long
ahead.
time.
Sorry, JJ.
Yeah, and they've been there a very long time. It doesn't look like they're going anywhere.
So
It's
Ken,
tough.
if we said that, take it to a minor site review, what all would be required of them?
This is something I would have to talk to the city attorney on as far as what, we could condition the project with, since it is a canopy that's going up. There's some trickiness there of kind of the size of the project and what conditions of approval you can put on it. So, just offhand, what's needed out there? Landscaping, doesn't have any landscaping that meets our code. It's gotta be 15% landscape, the site. There's no sidewalk on frontage road. That's another standard of ours that's not there. All businesses down that pathway there have been told, when we've had other businesses come in, also Jimco, actually truck stops doing this now, undergrounding of utility lines at some future point. So getting some security so that happens. So those are just 3 items off the top of my head that a site would go through if you're developing a site.
The undergrounding, is that just a fee or an assessment for now that would be taken? Or would you actually require them to underground something?
Well, Jimco actually is gonna be undergrounding at some point.
Okay.
It was a phased plan where they had some time to do it. It depends, like I said, it's very tricky. It depends on kind of the size of the project and what's considered a feasible condition of approval. And that's something we would flush by the city attorney with, and what we can require on a project.
So it could be a fairly sizable investment if we were to allow it to go to that next phase, or move it on.
Mr. Vanderpool, is it?
Yes.
Have you thought all that through?
We have,
Sidewalk, undergrounding, electricity, beautification?
he's mentioned everything we thought would be required. As I stated, we
Yeah.
go to a minor site review and find out what they're gonna require. It's a good site. Does it need to be upgraded? Absolutely it does. Building department, they met all requirements for the engineering of canopy, so that's not an issue. That's gone through the building department.
They needed a compaction report
Thank you. Good question. Thoughts? You have to drive by it every day.
Well,
I can
that's
understand.
not what I'm getting at. Well, no, that's not what I'm getting. I mean, I drive by other stuff too, so
Yeah.
I mean, I go to Manteca where my office is. You know, honestly, I haven't made up my mind yet.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, I didn't come in here saying this is how I was gonna vote, and this is what I was gonna do. I came in with an open mind, and I don't know. I haven't made up my mind.
This is a tough one.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You look like you want to say something.
Yeah, I just want to share with the commission, basically, as appealing as some of the improvements sounded to staff, the basis of our decision is kind of underlined in your staff report here, but not to encourage their continuance.
Right.
And that was the sole decision made with the nonconformity. So that's whatever it's worth.
Can we have other land that's zoned as an allowable usage for this type of a project?
Yeah, there is other land in the city that they could locate on and build a new site if they wanted to invest that.
But then the difficulty, you've already got quite an expanse in what's there already, so, yeah.
And they're locked in a lease.
Oh, true. Oh,
You're locked in a lease, right? 2033?
33.
Here we are, we do have a lease with options, but we're locked in, yes.
Okay.
okay.
So it comes down to sort of the letter of the law, the letter of the ordinance as it's written, versus, temporarily, do we want it to
It's gray.
look nicer?
It's gray. What's written is gray. Unfortunately, is gray. Expanding is like with the storage place. That's very black and white. They want to add on additional property and expand. It's gray. It's written in a gray manner
It is,
for
but
this applicant.
but at the same time, when we say that it's to not encourage, that puts it a little bit more black and white for
Yeah.
me.
Is that what the intent, I mean, is that in the language of the environmental decision, not encouraged?
That's in the ordinance that Ken wrote. Let us continue our discussion for a minute. Thank you. So if we're looking just at, as it's written, Ken, you read, shall not be extended, construction field canopy, non-conforming use are denied. Where was the wording, Ken, where we talked about not wanting to encourage non-conforming use?
It's under the discussion analysis, and then it's the second paragraph.
The
Intent of the
the additional
non-conforming.
intent of this section is to permit non-conforming uses to continue until they are removed or required to be ended, but not to encourage their continuance.
Right.
That's under, so if you look in the municipal code,
I see,
16.08.050, which deals with nonconformity provisions,
Right.
it's the very last sentence in that one. It's the intent of that whole section. It gets into nonconforming buildings,
Sure.
residential, all that stuff, and then it gets into nonconforming uses of land.
And the other thing that it says just prior to that is, or required to be ended. What would be the scenario aside from the landowner being compelled by a better price to sell it to someone else for a different use? Is there any other way that it would be required to be ended?
I'm not, off the top of my head, I know.
Okay.
I'm not certain on that one.
Got it.
I've never seen us have that. If you had a development agreement possibly.
Right.
Where you could require use to end at a certain time possibly. I'd have to check with city attorney on how that would come out to play on that one.
So I understand that we have these provisions and we have the code, but they're asking for an exception to the code. If we were to grant the exception, they would have to go to the planning department and have all the requirements listed to them. And it sounds like they're not certain that they're gonna do that, so they may walk away still then. but there's no other recourse. So in other words, most of what we do here in the planning commission, I know the city council likes us to do the work and to hear the public and do all of that, but they do have the final say. So if we were to grant an exception, the city council could overrule us, is that correct?
Yeah, the city council could appeal, take this up on an appeal to, if they want to appeal your decision, if they so desire.
It wouldn't automatically go to city council?
No, it doesn't automatically go to city council unless planning staff can appeal a decision of the planning commission
Yeah.
to city council or vice versa.
Would planning staff be of the mind to make that appeal?
I would have to do some checking after your guys' decision on that.
So there's two backstops, really. There is the appeal process if planning staff wants to do that. And the second one is if this gets cost prohibitive, where you've got all of these other items that they're gonna have to include based on the minor site plan process. Does that impact anybody's thinking?
They seem like they're willing to go forward. They seem like they know the battle that they're up against and they're ready to take it on to me. So, I mean, if we were to approve it thinking that they're gonna back out, I don't think that's the way to go because they're well aware of what's ahead of them. So I think they're ready to take that battle on. My dilemma is I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they're a business that's thriving. They're a business that is keeping up with the times with renewable fuel. They don't appear to be going anywhere. So they're gonna stay there likely. In my opinion, they are likely gonna stay there and we're not gonna get these improvements.
So that is a pragmatic look at it that, at least probably until 2033,
Yeah.
they would continue to operate and it would look just like it looks. Versus we take an opportunity to improve it.
Well, and they've been there for 20 years.
Mhm.
That shows me that they could renew in 2033.
Depending upon
Right.
what's going on around.
Yeah,
it
depending
at
on what's
that-
going on around them,
that
the
time.
landowner,
Right.
yeah. It's a gamble.
Mhm.
And then we go against staff. Deborah, you've been here a long time.
Yeah, I don't want to upset staff. I mean,
Yeah.
Ken might kick me off. That's okay. I'm getting too old anyway.
No.
Yeah, no, they've been there 34 years, and could be there for another 12 years. 2033 is only 12 years away. So that's a lot of money to invest for 12 years. I don't know if you have it.
Any more thoughts, Dave?
The only other thoughts is that I also work in the construction industry like you do. And I do a lot of commercial work at businesses out in the Bay Area. And that is always part of what goes into my thoughts. And I don't like it when land uses change because somebody always gets hurt. And I've been hurt in some of those transitions. But this was looked at as tech offices. And I do work next to tech offices, primarily Pleasanton, Dublin, and those areas. And it's not going to help us attract tech as it is. If it's improved, maybe, okay, if it was significantly improved, but still it's not the look that the consultants put forward to us that I think would be compatible with attracting tech. So, and not to say that our consultants, I mean, it was our best guess, the city council, the planning commission, the community, everybody was in on it, and maybe we were wrong, okay? But it was the best guess we have, and I just struggle with that too. So this is one of the more difficult items I've seen before us in the last year.
Yeah, and in addition to that, COVID has changed a lot in terms of office space, tech space, where, you know, people working from home, not as much demand for that type of space at this point. So there are some realities of the world we're in now versus 2015 when this was written.
And then you've got the push in California to go with electric vehicles, okay? Which I believe we're seeing that in the trucking industry too now. No, not in the trucking industry, just driverless, I think, okay? So, yeah, so it's a mess. Ken, let's take the opposite side. What if the planning commission was to deny it? They could appeal it to the city council, is that correct?
Yes. They could appeal the decision of the planning commission, obviously with submittal of an appeal letter and another appeal fee to the city council.
Another appeal, and they could come in and say, we're willing to, you know, do all this stuff, so they could open up their, okay, just wanted to make sure they had that opportunity.
So Ken,
Well-
go ahead, JJ. I'll pick up after you.
I don't, what's best for Ripon? What is best for Ripon, you know? Does this code really apply to them? Are they expanding or are they just improving? I don't see an expansion, I see an improvement. I hate to disagree with staff, it's very difficult. But at the same time, there's an appeal process for that too. And it seems like there's at least two of us up here that can save them some money of that process, and it can still get denied the same way without them having to send a letter or send more money, because it seems like there's two of us sitting up here that feel like this project should go through. I don't know if Deborah feels that way for certain, but it sounds like it. I kinda am leaning towards that way. I've just never disagreed with staff so bluntly. But I mean, these people aren't going anywhere. They've been there forever. You said 30-something years?
Since 34 years.
They've been there for 30-something years. I mean, they're catching up with the times. Everything they're doing is modern, you know, this renewable fuel. I think they're gonna stay there, and the place is gonna look the same if we don't approve it. And even if we approve it, maybe city council denies it, maybe staff objects to it. But that's what I see. I see if we deny this project, I see that place still operating, making money, making you guys money enough to where you wanna stay there, but it ain't gonna look pretty. That's what I see happening. So if I was to make a motion, I would disagree with staff. That would be my vote.
So Ken, just to make sure I'm clear procedurally, if we did that, the next step for them would be to go through the minor site plan review process. However, in the intervening period, you could make an appeal.
Correct.
Or any councilman can make an appeal.
Right.
Yeah.
There's an appeal period after your decision that we have to wait usually through until we actually tell a project opponent that they've been approved or denied. And so there's that period of time there that an appeal could happen or not.
Okay.
I said it, I'd give them a shot. And if city council doesn't like it, then they can deny it, but I would give them a shot. I think they're there to stay, and I'd rather have it look nice than look the way it is. I mean, those are major improvements for a business that definitely ain't going anywhere. Unless somebody's willing to buy it out at 2033 and put something new there, and then that opportunity will come along.
Yeah, well said, JJ.
Yeah, it's tough to disagree with staff. It's very difficult, Ken, but that's what I see. I mean, and I'm like Deborah,
That's
I
why
see
we're
that
here,
site
guys.
almost, I see it daily. I've seen it daily, I think, since I was a little kid. I always wondered kind of what it was. What was the CFN fuel? But now I use CFN fuel, so I know.
Any other comments? Sounds like we're gonna get a motion here in a minute.
See? No, I have no comments. Citing.
So it's good to.
Yeah, way to walk into it.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Well, all right, I'll do it. All right, well, I'm gonna have to go lower down on the page to find it. Nice construction. Back at page 10. Yeah. Right here. Ah, jeez.
I don't think you have anything previously written up.
Yeah, kind of. I'll make a motion that the planning commission disagree with staff's determination of the nonconformity provisions and allow the appellant to submit appropriate applications for the construction of the fuel canopy. If the commission would choose this path, would recommend that the applicant go, and I recommend that they go through the city's minor site plan application for the project, where appropriate conditions of approval can be established for the project, et cetera, landscaping of the site, sidewalk installation, and anything else that the city deems appropriate. On the mover. Oh, boy.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a second.
Add a 2 to 2. This could get interesting.
We have 3 to 1 in your favor. It is adopted. We'll pass it on. And ball will be back in you guys' court and yours as well. So we thank you for your business in Ripon all these years, and wish you well however this works out for you.
And thank you for your patience as
Yeah.
we
Yes.
slog through this.
Yes. This was wading into deep waters here, so
Good luck, guys.
thank you. Thanks, Ken. Okay. And now we move on to our development agreements, correct?
Yes, public hearing for our annual review. So at this time, this is kind of just a housekeeping item that we do every year pursuant to the government code section that's listed in your staff report. We do have what we consider 9 active development agreements, which are listed in the staff report. 7 are entirely residential. We have 3 that are 100% built out, however, they are still active just because of the duration of the development agreement. 1 is currently under construction. There's only 2 lots remaining which have stick frame houses on them at this point that are not finalized yet. Alexandra Place, which is at the end of Vera Avenue at Vera and Doke. We have 3 projects that have yet to be started. We got Meadow, Brook, and Meadow Wood subdivisions. They're straight out Fulton Avenue here where the horse stables used to be there, and also the corner of Colony and Fulton where the orchard used to be that's been removed right by Save Mart. And we have Pereira subdivision, which is just north of Bosch Drive between North Ripon Road and John Roos. Those 3 are in some form of either trying to sell the properties or they're about ready, some of them are about ready to expire as far as the development agreements. We have one that's a mixed-use commercial and residential project. It's the Ripon Gardens 2, which is mostly fully developed out with the exception of the corner on North Ripon and River Road. And we do have one that's not classified as residential, commercial, or industrial. It's the Calvary Reformed Church Master Plan, which the City Council did extend for another 15 years, so it's active till 2034. Also on that list, there's a whole list of development agreements that were active over time or are now expired, but they're in the red there. We have a total of 57 development agreements in all. So take out the active ones, and then you've got the ones that have expired. And there's also a map of where these are located attached to the staff report if you had any questions of where they might be. With that in mind, staff did review all the development agreements and found them to be in compliance with the terms that they have within them. So we would be recommending that the Planning Commission agrees that they're in they're in compliance and in good faith, with their terms and conditions, and that directs staff to prepare a written report to the City Council on this matter. With that, I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman. This is a public hearing if anyone wishes to get up and speak on this matter. Other than that, I will entertain any questions.
Very good. Questions for Ken?
Ken, the ones that are, have a marked no on them, like McCoy, Bernardo and Julio Lopez, I believe. No, it's McCroy Wilbur, Hogan Doom. Is that just expired because of time? Is that the no, or?
Correct.
Okay. And then the bottom one, Pereira Subdivision, is that still considered a go at this time, or?
Yeah, so the developer who put that project together is mostly a entitlement guy. Basically, he does entitles projects, and he's been actively trying to sell it. There have been some buyers that are interested in it, so they're working through their due diligence on it.
Oh, that's 57, okay, I see that one. Okay, is there anybody that would like to speak on behalf? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, so Ken, there's so many on here that say they're in compliance and yet they're expired. At some point, do you wipe these things off? Do they just stay on the list permanently?
We keep them on the list, and the only reason we do that is because there's certain things that don't expire in a development agreement. So what does expire is, development agreement protects a developer from any new fees that might crop up.
I see.
So if there's new fees introduced after they've got a development agreement, they don't have to comply with that. So other fees that we might introduce, or even some other agencies that are outside the city that the city adopts, that could apply to a project, they are safe from those provisions. What does not expire in the development agreements is if there's any setbacks that are listed specifically in a development agreement for a house, they still have to comply with that ongoing. So if you basically had a setback for a house on a corner that was important enough to note in the development agreement, if they wanted to expand into that area and stuff, we would go back to the development agreement and look at those terms.
Got it.
That's why we keep them on the list.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you. If we don't have any other questions, would one of you like to make a motion?
Is it appropriate to make a motion? I don't see any.
This is a public hearing, so we might want to open it up for public comment.
I think you did.
I did, and
There's nobody here?
she said
I
no.
guess I missed that, sorry.
Yeah, it was quick.
Perfect, no. Nothing further.
So, I'll make a motion that we agree that has been compliance in good faith with the terms and conditions of all the prospective development agreements, and directs the staff to prepare a written report to city council.
I will second that motion.
Can I get the vote turned back on so I can click it?
Well, she doesn't want to let us vote anymore.
There you go. Okay. Second. Yes. And that is adopted. Thank you. Very good. Do we have any other reports?
So just a couple items coming up. We do have a November, one item for the November meeting. It is a use permit down in the downtown area for a cigar lounge. That's seeking to revamp some existing space and open up a cigar lounge that would serve fine whiskeys and bourbons at that facility. So they are seeking approval of that at the November meeting. We do have a potential December item coming back in front of you. Kaizen River Development on Doke Boulevard that the Planning Commission approved several months back. Has now grown in size a little bit. They did acquire a couple more parcels, so they are relaying out their configuration. They're going to be bringing that back. It will have some additional parking in that site, another entrance and such, so they did pick up some additional parcels there. The look of the development, obviously the architecture and the elevations of the buildings seem to be remaining the same. They're just relaying out the site plan for the commission to take a relook at that, I guess, larger footprint. So that should be hitting us for the December meeting. And we do not have a meeting date yet, but I don't know if anybody's probably heard a little bit. Bethany Home did submit an application to the city regarding a potential project on the corner of Vera and Main, where the doctor's office currently resides, who is nearing, getting a little closer to completion here, right down the road from City Hall with their new office. And then there's the old dentist's office that's, I think Bethany Home uses as office space right now. And then there's the Interfaith building, which used to be the old Ripon Christian School on that corner. So that's about a 2.7 acre site. and they have a project that they're gonna be proposing. There's some reports and such that we need to have some consultants look at, so we don't know exact timing on that. But that would more likely hit after the first of the year with the Planning Commission.
Very good. And our November meeting is scheduled for the 15th, I believe.
Correct.
Okay, great. Any commissioners' reports?
I'd like to report that on the 15th of November, I'm going to be laying on a beach. I can hear the trade winds rustling, and so I'll text you guys a picture.
Okay.
Just a
So you'll join us via Zoom?
Just a reminder, when is the December meeting? What's the date on that? That's.
We don't know.
Let me see here.
We used to get a calendar.
It'll be December 20.
And I know it's like the first Monday after the first city council, after. I need a calendar.
December 20.
Who's
Okay.
playing on Monday Night Football that night?
Yeah. Don't know the answer to that.
Do we got January? Do we have a date for January?
Yeah, we can put one together for January.
Very good. Anything else, guys? Nope. Then we are adjourned. And Steve.